Great. So I am mega excited to be talking to you about how to add value today. And the purpose of this session is to walk away with at least one thing that you can do literally today to add value and strengthen your recruitment process so that you can find those top performing applicants. I am very unapologetic about this. I'm going to be much quicker than the other speakers. I get far too excited. We're going to whiz through a few different things. Any questions at any point, just let me know. Much prefer it to be super interactive. If you do leave your questions to the end, I'll obviously answer them. If you don't have any questions, I'm just going to say it's because I have been able to explain it so well. So let's see if I can get my tech working. Without further ado, then, the first big thing to realize right now is, has there been a seismic shift in recruitment because of COVID? And it makes sense, right? Loads of people were furloughed, loads of people were made redundant, loads of people stopped working. There was all of these things that people did, and it would suggest that maybe COVID created this huge issue with recruitment, okay? And in the general scheme of things, obviously, it took a bit of a step back. Recruitment companies, they did start to slow down. They saw jobs not coming through quite as quick. Of course, that happened. However, this is really critical. That is not necessarily the case to say all of recruitment was switched off. And there's a big reason why, because there's always winners and losers in these situations. So I'm going to demystify a couple of recruiter terms, and I'm brought here today to educate and help you to understand how to recruit. My day job is a sales headhunter. Obviously, I'm not going to start talking about how to headhunt, but I do want to give you the inside track into what recruiters say about certain market trends and what they do to be able to get those top performers. So hopefully you can implement it into your business without having to pay, and we reduce your recruitment spend, which is our mission. Anyway, so these two terms, candidate driven and client driven, what do they actually mean? Well, candidate driven means it's hard to find the candidates. We cannot find good candidates. So when we do get a good candidate, we would tend to market them out so that they could get multiple offers, and therefore we get paid. So we have a candidate, and that is the prized possession in this situation. Now, client-driven means something slightly different. So if you hear your recruiter say, hey, look, it's quite client-driven at the moment, we need to look at this from a slightly different angle, which means it's actually really hard to find jobs and roles, but we have an abundance of candidates. Now, if we've got an abundance of candidates, surely that's good news now, right? Not necessarily, and we'll come on to why in a couple of seconds, but it's either going to be candidate driven, so the candidate is the prized possession, or client driven. So obviously, you know, finding that role, there's going to be loads of applicants, but finding that role is the prized possession. Now, in your world, that means two things. It means you either have a tap switched on and loads of applications, and you need to work out how to filter them effectively, or the tap is switched off and there's not many applications. So obviously over on this side, it's candidate driven. Over on this side, it's client driven. But remember that because it's critically important. And the example during COVID, hospitality staff, obviously there was probably not many hospitality roles going available during COVID, but there was loads of people that wanted to work in that industry, maybe post-COVID, or they'd learned and studied and spent loads of time trying to get everything that they need to get into that industry. So you got more applicants than roles available. And now let's look at full stack developers. The biggest digital transformation to happen probably ever occurred during COVID, where literally the workforce in wherever you were sitting when COVID happened, you know, they changed to working from home in the most part. So obviously it happened before, but COVID increased this. So what about your full stack developers? I'm pretty sure that Zoom were trying their absolute hardest to recruit during this time, but there weren't many of them. Why? Because they already had jobs. And just to really reiterate this point and put a little bit more emphasis behind this, this is a part of our go-to-market material. And we headhunt high-performance sales professionals. Key thing about that is actually really good salespeople tend to stay within their job. The ones that move around loads, maybe they haven't found their home yet, or maybe they're just not as suited for sales as they first thought. But what we would say is that the job market is 90% candidate driven. So there is lower amounts of candidates than there is roles looking to hire these people, or businesses looking to hire these people. And that actually means that talent now picks you. You do not pick the talent, talent picks you. Okay. Now, again, just to stress this point a little bit more, obviously we're suggesting that that's a candidate-driven market. Why is it important? We're here to add value today. You need to know which one you are. You might be sitting and have the best recruitment process in the entire world with no candidates going through that process. You might therefore think spending loads of money on advertising is a really good example because that will fill the funnel. But if these are not job seekers, doesn't matter how good the process is or the adverts are, they are not going to come to you, and we have to attract them using talent attraction. All right. The second side is you might have the worst recruitment process, but have loads of people applying for your jobs, and you think you're absolutely nailing it because you seem to just always attract really good talent, but when they get in the business, they're not what you expected them to be. It's really important to realize, are you in a position that a recruiter would call a candidate-driven market or a client-driven market? Right then, so what can we talk about? What can we add value? How can I add value today? And that is really, really, really my aim. Like I said, the mission of this business is to reduce your recruitment spend. So how can we do it? Well, if you're client-driven, we've got loads of applicants, right? So we need to talk about better assessment. And how to check their suitability. Need to talk about recruitment automation. And we're going to talk about EVP kind of collectively anyway. If we're candidate driven, this is where you need to start moving away from this, I've got a brilliant recruitment process, to I've got the ability to attract top talent into my business. That's a totally different thought process. Your mindset does need to shift. So we're going to talk about recruitment marketing and the how to communicate, and we're going to talk about the talent attraction and the what to communicate. What should we be talking to these people about? And obviously, again, EVP, employer value proposition, is a big part of that. Right, so a few hacks for you then. If you are finding that you have too many applicants, so your job is quite limited, or your job, your role, there's not many of them at the moment, and lots of people want to apply for that job, then you need to start to think about, how do we assess better? And assessment is absolutely a part of recruitment, and it's probably what we would term recruitment as. We would think recruitment is the assessment part. It's not, it's the whole spectrum. But that's a conversation for a different day. So what can we do then? So the first thing, Jason just given us a really nice presentation about this, but please, I beg you to build a matrix of your ideal candidates. What behaviors, what attitude, what skills, what techniques, what experience. All of these things are absolutely critical. As Jason mentioned, what are the 5 core roles? How are they going to be able to execute this role? You are hiring for a specific position. Let's not just focus on hiring because we think they could do the job. Let's make sure they are effective in that job. And absolutely critical, I'm 100% on board with this as well, which is values and ethics. How can we get the right person? How can we ask the right questions to be able to get them to demonstrate that they will fall in line with our values and ethics? And actually, it's by building your candidate matrix to start with. If you have a job description before you have built this candidate matrix, or what is the absolute perfect candidate going to look like, you will fail because you will be aiming towards the wrong goal. You might get talent in the business, but they need to be able to fit the job. Okay, big one. How many times have you gone into an interview and maybe you've had a bit of a bad day? Maybe you have done 10 interviews that day and you go off-piste. Well, actually, every single interview you go into, you should plan effectively. You should plan the questions that you're going to ask. You should understand that that questioning will be able to fulfill the matrix. So the right questions to find out if the candidate is a good job fit. You also, and that's the next one, which is use this to be able to score these people by. But if you do not plan, if you are not asking the right questions at the right time, you will fail. that simple. You might get lucky. I'll take it back. You might get lucky because you'll be a hunch-based hirer, and you might get lucky, and every now and again it works, but you will not have a process that is scalable and repeatable. And that's what this is all about, right? Use psychometric tests, and you can literally do this today. Now, we administer psychometric tests. We have personality, we have competency, but I really 100% of me advises you to look into these things. If it's not through us, if it's not through other Stride partners, why not look online to find maybe the cost-effective ones, whatever it might be. But you need to find a psychometric test that you're starting to use in your process. Why? Well, we spoke about digital recruitment earlier and saying that actually screens now reduce our ability to assess effectively because we miss certain things. Psychometric tests actually benchmark your candidate against other candidates in other processes for exactly the same job role. And it lifts the bonnet of the car. It allows you to take a look at the engine and really work out what makes these tick. That's a recruitment side. There's also the managerial side of things, how to manage them properly. There's the human resources side of things, how to motivate them properly. All of these different things, beautiful things psychometric tests are, but probably one of the most underutilized things that our clients actually use. Remember, we're financial services, we're fintechs. A lot of these businesses have loads of money, but they don't want to invest in this because they don't see the upside potential of getting it right. And that's really important. It's about getting it right. Okay, and then the final one, measure, evaluate your process. So if you have not got your recruitment process written down today, go away and write it down right now. Write it down. And the reason why you're writing it down in front of you is because you're accountable now for that process. But as everything that we write down, your gym schedule, your food schedule, you always will evaluate it. Now, we're really lucky as human beings that our body will evaluate our food schedule for us, and we'll start thinking, we're getting bored of this, that isn't very good, I don't want this. But why aren't you doing that in a recruitment capacity? Why are you looking at processes and thinking it is perfect? There is no such thing. We can always adjust, we can always fine tune. It might be certain questions we ask. It might be the job search matrix at the beginning, because actually that candidate, the ideal candidate, changes as we grow. So therefore, why doesn't our recruitment process, why aren't we evaluating it? Okay. Next one then, too many applicants. What else can we do? RPA, what's that? Well, it's we try and make ourselves feel very special, and it's our three-letter acronym for recruitment process automation. What does this mean? Well, it means there's certain things that we can do today to make sure we can automate our recruitment process. Now, if you are a big brand like Coca-Cola, we are talking about thousands of applicants. As a small business, we feel the amount of time we spend on tens or maybe hundreds of applicants to be too many. And I did a survey recently, and it was, what do you feel is the most frustrating part of the recruitment process? And time comes up every single time. Okay, so how can we automate this? Well, an assessment point of view, then we can build in pre-screens. And this might just be really nice and simply to have a questionnaire as part of your recruitment process. So as they send the CV, let's say use your portal online, they send a CV and a questionnaire comes back saying, fill in these boxes, we'll get back to you if you're suitable. That can reduce the amount of people that you are interviewing in a beneficial capacity. Because if they're not suitable, and they're in your process, you're investing a lot of time for not much reward. Okay? One-way video interviews. I'm a big believer of this, but again, in the same way as you are asking your candidates to do the pre-screen questionnaire, you could get them to do a video questionnaire. Now think about this for client-facing roles. It's absolute genius, because what you are doing is you're saying, we don't just rely upon your CV. We want to see your personality too, because let's be honest, isn't that important? And if it is important, why aren't we going out and assessing their personality? Well, we would, wouldn't we, with a face-to-face interview or maybe a video call interview. But what about when we've got really high numbers of applicants because there's too many applicants? How do we then understand their personality? Well, we've got a platform called Spectro that will allow us to take a look at candidates in 45, 60, 5-minute bulks, okay? And you get them to record. Most people in today's world have a phone, PC, tablet, They're used to Snapchat, they're used to TikTok, they'll put the phone up here to speak to their friends, get them to use this as part of their collateral to introduce themselves to you. And then you're going to have a better chance of success when you meet. Psychometrics, just been through it, but super important. You can literally automate your process by saying, hey, look, as part of the first stage of the process, we want you to do this psychometric test. And if they are not right, you can get rid of them earlier on in the process. Now, I'm going to come to this in a couple of seconds, but the management of candidates and process is critical. I don't want you to think for 1 second that I'm saying if they are not right, they're not good people, or they're not brilliant for other jobs. That's not the case, but you are recruiting for a role in your business, and your business needs comes first in this process. So it's really important. I 100% agree that you have to treat everybody with the respect and decorum that they deserve, but it's really important to start to use automation to be able to become more efficient in this process as well. I put gamification, and the reason that it's bold is it's expensive. It's really, really expensive, but there's some really good examples of how gamifying your recruitment process can allow for automation. And maybe this is something that's a bit more skills-based. I always use the example on that really interesting film, The Social Network. Jesse Eisenberg, I think, he gets his applicants to code something as part of the recruitment process. I'm pretty sure that's a PG version. But that is absolutely critical with this because they're checking skills. Can you gamify that? So at the beginning of the process, you can work out they have that right skill before you move forward. There we go. We're talking about automation. Last one's data coordination. I spend hours and hours and hours sending calendar invites to people. But what about using these automatic scheduling tools? I use Calendar personally. I find the interface really easy to use, but now they click and they see your calendar. There's loads of different options out there, but let's start automating. ATS or CRM, Applicant Tracking System, Candidate Relationship Manager. Now, this is a data pool and a reservoir for data where you can use this data in the future, which is super beneficial. Why? Well, actually, applicants evolve, humans change. They might become better at the job. You've got yourself a free candidate. But also, we now have the ability to communicate effectively with everybody in our process. And this is, if you set it up properly at the beginning of the day, you're able to communicate with them almost immediately. If they're successful, if they're unsuccessful. And a lot of these ATSs and CRMs, they actually have really nice drag and drop capabilities as well. So you drag and you drop something, and then all of the recruitment admin is done for you in a second. You're saving so much time because you've got too many applicants. Right, moving on. Does anybody ever use this term, WIFM or WIIFM? Does anybody know what it means? Give you a clue. Candidate driven, they pick you. Okay, yeah, a few people have got a really good idea of exactly what this means. What's in it for me? And remember at the beginning, we said you're either going to have too many applicants and we need to assess them better, or you're not going to have any or very few, and they're going to be in so high demand that we're really going to struggle to get them into our business. And that's the talent shortage. Certainly you heard a lot about before COVID as well. So what's in it for me? What does that mean? Well, that's what they're thinking behind the process. So you would never be able to sit there in their body and think exactly what they are thinking. But I guarantee you, when they go into the process, if they are highly sought after, they will think, what's in it for me? And this is where I want to talk about EVP. So we're kind of putting two areas together here, because I put EVP on the candidate side and the client side as well. But EVP is your employer value proposition. As an employer, how will we add value to our employees? And most people look at this and put it down to money. And yeah, certainly a big part of it. Rewards and benefits, there we go, right in the middle, taking center stage. It's a huge, huge part of it. But what else do we have as a business? The prestige, it could be the location, it could be the training, the leadership, all of these different parts of your EVP need to be understood in your business. If you don't know what your EVP is, by the way, create a survey and ask your employees why they joined your business. And you can obviously lead them a little bit and give them tip boxes and all the rest of it, so they're not just saying like good money in it, right? But ask them, why did they choose your business? Better still, have a feedback loop in the interview process, asking why they were interested in coming to interview, why they decided to take the job if they did, or why they didn't decide to take the job. Now we go, we're adding value today. That's what this session is all about, right? Today, I want to be able to add value so you can reduce your recruitment spend, but also you can walk away and feel much more confident about this recruitment business. So if they pick you then, what do we do with this EVP? Well, it's actually called talent attraction. And the best way to explain this is you create your own gravity. So sounds a bit crazy, but obviously gravity allows us to be drawn into something, right? And that's what talent attraction is about. Now, talent attraction is a part of the recruitment marketing, but actually the talent attraction talks about, what do we need? Not how do we deliver the message, but what do we need? And here we go. If you don't have a career section, build yourself a little career section. There's all of the benefits of better SEO, better analytics, better tracking. Of course there is. However, it's so much easier to be able to tell your unique message on a page that they can click on. If you go to the best 3 of your competitors, have a look at where that careers tab is. Or maybe think about companies that always seem to get it right when they're hiring. Where is that careers tab? Some companies, including ourselves, we have a whole different page for it. The reason why is because we want to tell our unique story. And we can only do that really by giving it its own space. And we're allowing it to have the respect it deserved. So career section is absolutely critical, but also interview guides. So this is a really weird one, right? Because when I first started in recruitment, which wasn't too long ago, but it was 2010, we used to hand out paper to everybody. And on this paper, it used to say, like, these are the companies we think are good for. These are the businesses that you'll have a good time working for. These are the ones that pay you the most. And we had these really nice kind of talent attraction brochures or interview guides. This is the people we're going to meet. This is the career progression. And probably about 2012, everything started to move to PDFs. And, we're sending out all these PDFs, like the email was so big and it always went to spam, right? But all of these businesses, this is why you're really good. This is why you're going to love them. And people really liked it. But it's almost come around the other way, where now these interview guides are an excellent physical tool that we can have. Anybody in your interview process, if you meet them face to face and you give them a brochure on why they should come and work for you, what's the first thing they do when they walk away from you? They look at the brochure, they read the brochure. You're creating your own gravity because you're increasing awareness. You're allowing these people to get excited about your business by a piece of paper. Yeah, you can send them online as well. Of course you can. But it's about making sure that they are interacting with these documents. Loads of ideas what can go into those, guys. Drop me a note if you want to find out a little bit more. We do create these as well. But at the end of the day, you probably don't need us to create them because you've probably got Adobe Suite on your computer. You could probably smash one of these out in 15, 20 minutes if you're as good as my marketing guy. And they will add so much value. So success stories and videos. Like, why aren't people doing this? Why aren't people showing what life is like at that business? We've moved away from a 2-dimensional period now. We are now living 3D. I can't wait until we live in 4D and we're starting to watch a video and then you can smell the air, what it's like in London when you're going into that business. Like, that's going to be amazing. But why aren't we creating these videos? Okay, right over, I'll carry on. Exciting job description, you can do that on video, and creating your socials to be talking about your story, right? And Glassdoor is a really big one with this because actually that's your story told from a different perspective. So can we influence these channels to make sure that the story we are telling is the story of us as a business? It's incredibly unique. It has our own EVP. Nobody has this same blueprint, fingerprint as you do. I can sit here with tens of thousands of businesses that do what I do every single day, and I know every single one is different from me. But does everybody else know that? How can we communicate this message with them? because that's absolutely key. Hopefully adding value. Okay, last slide, last slide. I think we might be running slightly tight for time, so I will keep this one as punchy as possible. Okay, so if we know what to build, how do we deliver these messages? And this is a big area. This comes under the recruitment marketing, can fall under your recruitment team, can fall under your HR team, can fall under your marketing team. But at the end of the day, we need to realize now, this time is going to pick us. We cannot be passive anymore. We cannot sit back, put a job advert out and go, done. I'm ready for this person to turn up and going to change my world. And we're going to leapfrog all of our competitors because we're going to have all the best staff. You just cannot do it, right? It sounds crazy when you mention it like that, isn't it? So what can we do then? Well, let's think about using our website to create blogs. Now, we obviously said a career section. What about a careers blog? Life app. A really nice way of being able to deliver your message. So if somebody goes to interview with you, they don't feel like they're getting anxious because they don't know what to expect. It's fear of unknown, right? People get super anxious with that all of the time. So if they know what they're getting themselves in for, or what's in it for me, you're going to have a much better chance of getting them to apply and come through the doors. When they're through the doors, I'm sure you're a brilliant salesperson. I'm sure you're brilliant at problem solving. That's the easy part, all right? Talent pools, so mailing lists, all of this data that you've collected on your ATS, your CRM, what can we do with that? Well, actually, we can start to say, hey, if it's GDPR compliant, do you want to know what life is like in our business? Because if you do want to know what life is like in our business, we'll happily allow you to see that. And we're sending them videos, we're sending them nice posts, maybe we're sending them like discounts into our business just to show how much we care. Maybe we're talking about our CSR that we've been doing, all the charities that we help. But are you talking about this to your potential future hires? Just because it's not right today doesn't mean it's not going to be right tomorrow. Okay? How many times have you made an investment today that you thought was brilliant? 6 months down the line, it was rubbish. And vice versa. How many times do you think, oh no, it's not right today? But 6 months' time, you want to be there. Okay? Don't just think short-termist. We're thinking proactive, not reactive now. Digital excellence. I spoke about programmatics earlier. Take a look at the Cambridge Analytica scandal. Not too sure if I'm allowed to say that. Might get my slap wrist. They are able, or that company was able to influence politics by what they were showing people on Facebook. You can do that. That isn't some witchcraft or wizardry. That's smart people behind social media that are using the information that you have and targeting the right audience. So let's say you're a publishing business, okay? And you want people who love books. Well, you can get a video of you on Amazon when somebody goes to a book that you like, okay? Creepy, but true. So start to think about how we can use our social media, but also the digital marketing excellence. The final one is socials. Go through this all the time, but if you don't have your social channels on point to show what life's like in your business, to show your culture and your ethics and your values, to show your people, to show all of your processes, to show absolutely everything about you, you are missing a huge trick. Now, I'm about 8 minutes over what I should have been, so hopefully this has answered everything. If there's any further questions, hit me in the networking section. More than happy to talk to you in more detail about that. Much appreciated for your time today. Have a very beautiful day. I'm Matt Sedgwick. We help financial service businesses and fintech companies grow via sales professionals. Thanks so much for your time. Hey.